Larry Manchell, our board chair, couldn't be with us this morning, so filling in for him. I'd like to begin by recognizing the elected officials we have present. Please hold your applause until we get to the end. We have Mayor of Mandeville, Donald Villery. We have school board member Mike Derman, and always privileged to have Trey Foles, our superintendent of schools, here this morning. Thanks, Trey. And of course, our speaker, Louis Fitzmaurice. We also have some candidates in the room. Always happy to have candidates at this time of year. So they'll be working the room. We have a lot of interesting things coming up. We're in the middle of them right now. And, we always, every year we celebrate our cultural economy. And we try to have a chef or a writer. And this year we are going to celebrate the culture of politics in Louisiana. And we are going to have the Silver Fox sponsored by the Silver Slipper. Yes, we have former Governor Edwin Edwards, who we are going to be planting some questions for him, and if you have any, you can email them to me or Amy or any of our staff. The first question we've sent him already was, please tell us what you think about Donald Trump. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of laughs. It's going to be September 23rd, and God, all you got to do is say his name and you get laughs. As Jen Messina said yesterday, who cares what he talks about? I mean, it's going to be fun. I offered for him for us to put him up in a hotel overnight, because if you were there last time, you'll recall there was a traffic jam. And I think Trey was one of the only ones that had to leave. We had like 3 people that had to leave. So we don't want that drama. We have enough drama. And he said that they prefer not to because of Eli, their 2-year-old. So let's just hope there's no traffic jams that day. Next, now that's September 23rd, if you want to save the date. September 23rd, 1 month to the day of Election Day. So it should be fun. Now, next Wednesday, we have something a little more serious. We have our 4 hospital CEOs, and we are at about 160 people for that. We're thinking about flipping these state-of breakfasts to lunch, because some people just don't want to get out of bed in the morning. I heard that from a couple this morning. I'm not going to say your names. But we do have the 4 hospital CEOs, and it's sponsored by Trinity Medical. Trinity Medical is one of our new businesses here in St. Tammany. They are a lab toxicology, or however you say it, toxicology company. They are nationwide, and it's the owners and founders are three young men, first class of Fontainebleau High School. So it's another group of homegrown guys. Blake Burke, B-O-U-R-Q-U-E, has agreed to serve on our board of directors next year, and we really expect them to come in with a bang. So you can look forward to hearing about them as well. And that said, this next week our board's going to vote to approve the slate of officers for our board of directors for 2016 to 2018. And our chamber has a very solid foundation, and we are working to continue to build on that foundation. Michelle and I just returned from our professional conference last week, and the theme was Horizons, the Horizons Initiative. Everything is changing in our world, in your world, and our chamber is going to stay focused on business support, of course, and building coalitions and being a voice of business. And we haven't you're going to be hearing about that a little bit more. So watch your emails, and you can look forward to seeing us step up a little bit more on issues in the months and in the year ahead. Tonight we have our monthly after hours. We encourage you all to come. It's at Fidelity Bank on 190, catered by Liz Is Where You At and the guys from NOLA Lending. They have a chef team. They like to cook. So it'll be a great evening. And Florida Boulevard, right by Liz Is Where You At, also known as Highway 190. We all get confused on Highway 190. Let's see. October 21st, we're going to have Dr. Lauren Scott. Everybody also loves him. He's the only guy that can make economics fun. And there's a lot of realities, and a lot of it is good news this year. We do need a sponsor or sponsors for that event. So if you know or anyone or you are interested, please see me or any of our staff. That concludes, I think we're going to call it the chamber brief. I can't call it the chamber minute. It's never a minute. So now I'm going to introduce our sponsor. Everyone in the room knows Humana and Rhonda Bagby, and she has graciously offered her time and experience and wisdom and education and to the chamber and other organizations, and Humana has been the loyal sponsor of this breakfast series. I'm going to let her talk a little bit about what's going on at Humana, and simply add she is working on her master's, right? Your master's. And she's the mother of 2 teenagers. One of the most challenging things I ever did in my life. They turned out really well, too. And I have 4 grandchildren. That's the bonus. So Rhonda is going to take over and introduce our speaker, and I know we're all anxious to hear. And I want to thank St. Tammany Government Access Channel for helping us spread the news from our assessor's office. Rhonda?
Hey, good morning, everybody. As Lacey said, Humana has been the sponsor of this breakfast series for a few years. I think this is our 3rd year, and this really is one of my favorite sponsorships that we do, and it's because of the relevant topics about connecting government with business and the great attendance that we do get at these meetings. So I'm really happy that all of you were able to join us this morning. As you all know, Humana, we are in the health and wellness space. We are one of the largest publicly traded health and wellness companies in the United States. The week of the 4th of July, we actually announced our merger with Aetna that is going to be happening next year. It's expected to close around the second half of 2016. This merger is actually going to be a really good thing for our customers because we have a lot of complementary capabilities between our 2 organizations. So we're really looking forward to bringing that into play during the second half of 2016. And as we move forward, we'll be communicating about anything that people need to know about that. But today, we're really happy to have as our speaker Lewis Fitzmaurice. Lewis Fitzmaurice is the St. Tammany Parish Assessor, and he was elected in November 2012. He's a graduate of Louisiana State University, where he earned his Bachelor of Science degree in Agriculture Economics. After a few years in the workforce, he opened his own business, APRO Pest Control. APRO operated successfully for 18 years with clients across the North Shore. In addition to being a small business owner, Assessor Fitzmaurice has an extended history in public service. He first ran for office in 1995 and was elected alderman of the town of Abita Springs. 4 years later, he was reelected to that position. After 8 successful years of service on Abita's town council, he made the decision to run for mayor of the town and was elected. He was reelected twice, more to serve a total of 10 years as the mayor of the town of Abita Springs. He resigned in December 2012 to assume his elected position as the assessor for St. Tammany Parish. Assessor Fitzmaurice and his wife, Tanya, live in Abita Springs, where they have raised their children, 2 adult daughters, Carlin, Katie, and their son, Robert. Now, this is my second time to introduce Assessor Fitzmaurice. A couple of years ago, maybe last year, we featured him as our speaker, and I had the opportunity to introduce him at that meeting. And at that time, I told my personal story about how in 2012 I got my personal tax assessment from our previous tax assessor, and all of a sudden the value of my home had gone up by like $150,000. And fortunately, my husband and I had the wisdom to contest that because we actually knew the appraised value of our home. And we had quite the experience when we couldn't get our phone calls answered. We couldn't get anyone to call us back. even when you called into the office from standing outside and looking in the window and the office was empty and no one answered the phones. So after Assessor Fitzmaurice was elected, it was only a matter of days before we were able to get that matter resolved. So I think he, is really doing a good job for us. So we're anxious to hear what he's going to tell us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. I guess it was a little over a year ago. I think it was my first year. And Rhonda gets up and starts telling that story. And thank goodness this is the second time, because the first time I heard it, we're looking at each other. Oh my goodness, where is she going with it? It's like, but it turned out great. She's at, and I'm going to go ahead, since Rhonda set me up again, I'm going to go ahead and tell that story again. You might have been here. I wasn't allowed in the office until I took office, and that was January 1st, 2013. So on New Year's Day, a bunch of us, Troy, a lot of them, Steve, a lot of the people that are sitting at this table, we were in the office, and I said, I'm gonna just call the phone. I was a little curious what maybe the message. I'd heard complaints about the phone system and stuff, and you know how people can exaggerate, and so I called the phones in the office, and it just rings and rings and rings. So I get with Steve, and I said, Steve, how's the phone system work here in the office? And if you remember how we were set up before, we had the counter, and then you had like 4 or 5 desks on the back side. And Steve said, well, on that desk, it rings 5 times, and then on this desk, it rings 5 times if it's not answered. And it just went on, and it was like, whoa. It only rings on one desk at a time, and then 5 times, and then when can you leave a message and stuff? Well, it sort of boggled my mind a little bit. So on January 2nd, we changed that up. I got Steve to make sure it rang on every desk. And on January 2nd, when we met all the employees, that was one of the first things, the meetings that we had, was that we're going to answer the damn phones around here, okay? And if they leave messages, we're going to return the phone calls, because that was something else we were told, that for the most part, they didn't even listen to the messages. They erased it in the day. So I think, Ron, thank you, because I feel that we've really, I told this story too, when for the first couple of weeks, the people up in the front answering the phone, they'd come and said, man, I answered the phone and there's a pause. And it's like, I can't believe you answered the phone, so. But it's funny how little things like that can make all the difference in the world. So thank you. Thank you for being here this morning. No, it's a little nasty. Trey gave me such a compliment, said he would have stayed in bed if it wasn't for me being here today. So thank you. Thank you so much. And this is going to be like my first official sort of PowerPoint presentation. We put this together. I want to thank Steve Campbell over here, my master IT and programmer over here, for helping me put together. And go ahead and introduce some of my staff that's with me. I have Troy Jugas, my chief deputy. Like I said, Steve Campbell, Matt Faust, my appraisal director, and my longtime assistant, Donna Kilpatrick. I make Donna come to all these kind of functions with me. And they're not here just for moral support, but they're here to help answer any questions you may have during this presentation or afterwards. And I want to go ahead and start off by saying this, that I say this all the time, and I mean it. You are only as good as the people you have around you. And I am so blessed to have the staff that I do. So blessed. And they do such a great job making me look good. And I greatly appreciate it. I really do. And they serve the public very well. What I'm going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and go through the presentation and stuff. And like I said, I hope you be patient with me. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started and we're going to see how it goes. The first thing I always like to do is start off with the timeline. Dates are very important to us at the assessor's office. And what I want to do is I always start off with January 1st. That is our valuation and legal status date. That's like the lien date. That's when we're doing for most part, we do things in the rear, like a year behind. So I believe today is August 20th. I want to use this as an example. Let's say you bought a brand new home. You get your CO, your certificate to occupy, on this day. Well, your house will not be on the tax roll for 2015 because it did not exist on January 1st. It may even have been under construction, but to us, it doesn't exist until we get that CO and stuff. Then you can see the other dates, June, July, that's when most all the mills were set. And one of the reasons I'm really glad to be here with you today is this is our open roll period. That is by law, there's like a 2-week period. For us, it's August 17th, start at Monday, and it goes through the 31st. This is the time that you check and review your assessment, not when the bill goes out. Right now, this is the legal time you're supposed to check it. And then you go through a review process. If you don't like your assessment, you got issues, you can request a review. And that goes through us. But there's steps. If you're not happy with the outcome, with the decision we've made, you can go to the Board of Review, which is the parish council. And it looks like, I think, Troy, that date's the 22nd. I know we got 22nd, I think 23rd is the next day if we need to use 2 days. But the last couple of years, we've been able to do it in a day, pretty much. So, and that's what we're hoping. And right now, we're just 3-4 days into the review period, but not a whole lot. Mostly what we've had come in, it's been mostly for like homesteads or technical issues after a transfer. Not a whole lot of valuation issues. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. I'm feeling pretty good about where we're at. The next important date is once the roll is done, we have to turn it in to get approved by the tax commission. The legal date for that is November 15th, but we like to get it in there early so we can get the bills out, so we can do that in a timely manner. And it's really important to try and keep it in with this year, because I have as assessor and at the assessor's office just not a responsibility to you, the property owners, but also to the taxing bodies to make sure that they get the money, that their revenue that they need for the year in a timely manner. And it makes a difference. As it was mentioned, I was former mayor. That was really important and sort of frustrating when you never knew when the bills were going out and you didn't know exactly when you were going to be receiving your revenue, especially if you have bonds, especially. And one of the things that's been happening, we work very closely with the Sheriff's Department because we don't actually send the bills, nor do we collect. We prepared the information, give that to the Sheriff's Office. What I do know is that the last 2 years, more money has been collected sooner than ever before. And that is working with the Sheriff's Department, working together, coordinating our efforts, and that has made a difference. Once those rolls are turned in, once those rolls are certified, that's it. I cannot make changes. Now, what we can do is do a change order, and that would go to the Louisiana Tax Commission, but they would have to approve it. Right now, if there's a problem, we can do it in-house. We can do it in the office. But once I turn that roll in, that's it. It's certified. It's official. I cannot change it. So I want to get to the very bottom there, and our next scheduled reassessment is in 2016. Right now, the current assessments are based on the values established for the 2012 reassessment. And that was, the market date was 1/1/11, but you look 6 months prior and 6 months after. So our next reassessment is next year in 16. So our starting date was 1/1/15, 6 months prior, 6 months after. So we started in June of 14 and ended up in July of 14, ended up in the end of June of 15. That 1 year period of time, that sales data that we're collecting during that time, that is what we're going to use to base our valuations for 2016. And so that's, for the most part, what we're doing this year is preparing for next year. And what are we doing to prepare? What I got up here before you is a CAMA, Computer Assistant Mass Appraisal. This is what we do. We do mass appraisal. We do not do individual appraisal work. And I like to use an example. If you're familiar with the Kelly Blue Book value for vehicles, like I drive a 2008 Ford F-150 extra extended cab. It's got close to 100,000 miles on it. You know, it's in decent shape. And you lay all that out, and it gives you a value for it. And I'm going to say, I looked it up, around $7,000. Well, that's what we do for property, for homes. You see how we start out, and where I got highlighted, building class, C. We class homes from A to E. A being your high-end, custom-built homes. E being usually mobile homes, house trailers, something not in the best shape in the world. The vast majority of homes that we have classified in this parish are C's and D's. Then what we do, you see the other highlight, the factor of the $75. We break it down. So what we're doing, in a sense, is a combination of market value and cost. And what we do, we have the living space, and we break it down, and you see the different values. So we'll take a given subdivision, and we're going to classify those homes. And then we're going to have a value associated with it. Then you see the depreciation. Almost every home, like going back to the vehicles, drive a car off the lot, you get a little depreciation. We do that. We don't usually go any higher than 35% on the depreciation. And then you see the land value. We separate the improvements from the land value. For example, for commercial property, the improvements are assessed at 15%. Residential is 10%, but land is always 10%. And then doing all that, we come up with values and stuff. And I wanted to say, if anybody has any questions while I'm speaking, please feel free to ask. Now, what you see here is what's on our website. When you go to check your assessment, this is the information you see on our website. And it breaks down. It gives you the market value, but it gives you the assessed value. Remember, assessed value is 10% of the market value. But if you noticed up top, what I got in the red and green, I started this last year. Most people want to give me the credit or blame for taxes. Have nothing to do. Now, we'll have our mills at this, but I have nothing to do with anybody else's mills. But I get the credit or the blame, however you want to look at it. And I said, I decided last year I need to give the credit where credit is due. So I'm going to let you know who's raising their mills, but I'm also going to let you know who is lowering their mills. So you'll see right up there that there's three that got low. And it's different where you're at, but those three top ones, the library, the Council on Aging, and Stark in the corner, those are parish-wide mills. So is mosquito control. But here, we use an example of Mandeville. Mosquito control, they went down a little bit. Recreation District 1 went down a little bit, and that's for a bond. And then the city of Mandeville, and I think the mayor earlier, lowered their mills by 4.77, which is significant. So that's provided to y'all on our website and everything. Now, these are very important, and since that we have added almost 25,000 cameras to the system. And talking to Steve and having him run reports, it looks like we're 5,000-6,000 short where we want to be, but we're getting there. This is what we did over a course of a year. We measured over 4,000 homes. We took almost 7,000 photographs. And then we went out when people called, wanted us to come check, redo the square, measure and stuff like that. We did almost 1,500 of those. It's so important that what we're doing here is to get the data correct, to put it into that camera. So much, this is saying, garbage in, garbage out. What we want to make sure is that we got the right information in our system so we can do our job and do it fairly. Now, getting to the millage, you have on your tables and chairs and stuff, I gave you, it's like a millage package and stuff. And we'll go ahead and pull that out. The mills went up a little bit. I showed you a little bit earlier. But what you have, you have two handouts here. One is the districts. That just lays out the districts, what the mills, because if you notice, the mills are different throughout the parish. You got your parish-wide mills, but then you got your recreation district mills, you got your fire district mills, you might be living where you got a drainage district or a lighting district, so it can vary. And then if you live in a municipality, you can have municipal mills. And one thing I always like to mention with the municipal mills, you're not homestead exempted with those. But that's just for your general information as far as what people's authorized rate are, the max rate, the adjusted. Now this is going to change next year when we do reassessment, because we will give them the adjusted max mill, and our expectation that most of them are going to be coming down. But when it's all said and done, when it comes to the mills, they are voted on by the people every year, every tax and by every commission, whether it's the parish council, whether it's me at the assessor's office, the sheriff, the rec districts, the fire boards, they have to vote on setting their mills. And that's where the public comes into play. And as far as attending these meetings, making sure, I always like to do this too. I like to qualify when we're talking about mills and taxes, that you get what you pay for. And we arguably have the best quality of life of any parish in this state. But it comes with a cost. It comes with a cost. And comparing ourselves, and we're higher, and I want to say, Troy, we were at around fourth highest in the state. But compared to our neighboring parishes, particularly the river parishes, we don't have the industry. We don't have the chemical plants. We don't have the refineries. We don't have that. We don't want that. But once again, it comes with a cost. Now, this is what we've been doing. I just wanted to show these numbers of when I took office in 2013, what one mill, this is one mill, generates. In 12, $1.67 million is what one mill generated. What you see, that $252 million on the side, that was the overall. That includes the rec districts, the drainage. That's the overall amount of money that went out in tax revenue from ad valorem taxes. And here at 2015, we're estimating, and that's what we're doing, estimating right now $1.85 million that one mill is going to generate. I say estimating because we're in such it's so strange how things are done in this state. And I don't know why. I'd say I grew up in Louisiana. That shouldn't surprise me. But we do things backwards. We're asking people to decide on their budgets and what their mills are before we even start the review process. I mean, right now is when we're open up for review, but everybody had to decide already what their mills were and preparing for the budget. Now, what I always tell about what I've always done in the past, whatever I advise everybody to do, budget on what you did last year, because that number is probably going to change. That 1.8 and the 279, that's probably going to change because we just started the review process. But I think we're pretty good at the assessor's office, talking to everybody, all the taxing bodies. We'll have a feel if there's going to be a lot of changes, a significant one or not. I still think that numbers, it's going to stay, but it's probably going to change a little bit, maybe go down a little bit, but we'll see. Once again, we hadn't had a whole lot of reviews, and we really shouldn't because we're not really changing values. That's not going to happen until next year. Some of the things we've been doing, and just I think information that's just, to me, a little amazing. It's that when we took office in 2013, there were 70,439 homesteads. As of August of this month, there's 70,248. Even though there's almost 2,500 new residential homes that's been added on the rolls since we've been here. That's pretty significant. A homestead saves a taxpayer about $1,000. I know one of my employees, Melanie, on her own, it's hard to keep track. We just started keeping track of this and stuff a little bit better. But on her own, almost 400 double homesteads that she's removed. That's significant. That is significant. And in a lot of ways that we've done this is we've gone through the system, we've figured different ways to look. A lot of problems we could have, Troy and I were talking about it earlier, where I'm Lewis Fitzmaurice, but maybe I got property under Lewis W. Fitzmaurice, and there's two homes you don't know. A lot of return mail. We look at it and changes of addresses. But the biggest one is from the public. We'll get a phone call. Listen, my neighbor moved 2 years ago to Florida. They're renting that house out. I know they bought and live in it, and they still got a homestead on it. And we'll check it out. And we'll contact the property owners. And usually when we call and talk to them, they're honest. Oh, yeah, no, I'm sorry. I forgot, or I didn't know. So I think that's pretty amazing. Land uses. Mainly what we're talking about here is the timber property. 370 of those that we removed. That resulted in a little over $1 million in tax revenue being put back on the roll. Investor rate. Some of y'all may be familiar with that. That is a law that allows for a residential developer, contractor, strictly residential, not commercial, to be able to get a discount, anywhere from 40 to 60% on the value of the property. You have to be a corporation, LLC. You can't just be an individual homeowner. You can't be for commercial property. You can see that we removed about 1,800 that didn't meet those qualifications, resulting in, once again, a little over $1 million of revenue being added to the tax roll. I talked earlier about us not having a lot of heavy industry, but what we have had, I say this, the last 30 years, our biggest industry has been construction. And I think this sort of shows it. What makes us so much different than most any other parish out there is that the majority of the property tax paid is by residential property owners, 55%. And then another that's a little different from us, even though you see the number of taxpayers and stuff, and that 133 is commercial too, so we can make it closer to about 110 or something, but only 7,000 homeowners, residential homeowners, are totally homestead exempted. Most everybody in this parish pays some type of property tax. And a lot of those, when we checked into it, in that 7,000 are seniors who have the senior freeze and got froze, let's say, 20 years ago. And so a good many of that. So we don't really have, I'm going to say it's, 94, 95%, 96% of every property, residential property owner in this parish pays some form of property tax. Personal property, here with the chamber. Y'all might be familiar with this. This is pretty significant. I'd like to say this too. And as you heard earlier, I'm a former business owner, and I hated this tax. Hated it. But it is what it is. I had to pay it. You have to pay it too. Okay? So we've made sure that if you bid, you're on the rolls. And that has been pretty significant. That almost $6 million that's been added by just making sure all businesses that operate in this parish are on the tax roll. If you recall last year, they were talking about doing away with the inventory tax, which I can understand and appreciate, as long as don't do to us what they've done to themselves in the state, as long as we can figure out a way to make up that difference in the revenue. For us, it would have been about 5%. Pretty much all the taxing bodies about 5%, which we would have been able to cover a little bit and a lot of it but it would have wiped out all that. All that would have been gone. All right, I'm going to change tracks a little bit. And I want to talk about where we're heading, something that's really, really important to me, but is tied in to what we're doing at the assessor's office. And that is the GIS, the Geographical Information System that we're trying to establish. When we came in, we were hoping that we had more information we could use than we were able to. But when it's all said and done, there's only about 1,000 parcels that we could use, and that was working for us. One of the things we're trying to identify is actually how many parcels we have in this parish. I feel pretty confident that most everything's on the roll. I'm not saying everything, because you would be amazed over the years. Some of those numbers you saw were just stuff that we have added to the roll. But trying to get a better handle on it. A little example, we use the Lacombe and stuff, and this was some of the information we had that we inherited. And you can see the green, you can see where it's sort of outlined. And you can see how it didn't, to me, it's important that it, not only if it's accurate, but it's professionally done and looks good. You can see where we came back in and we're in the red, and we did it correctly, and changed the center line and all that, and to where you can see where things are a little off, and that we corrected. Another thing that we use, and was used before I took office, is pictometry. It's a company. It's basically Google Earth on steroids, and it's pretty impressive stuff. 3-inch resolution. The parish does help us with this and the financing of it, but we share this data with everybody. But one thing that's really neat about it is that it was done in 12. We just recently had and I think we're just now getting the information. Right now, they give it to us in little batches. I think it's mostly Covington area we're dealing with right now and stuff. But you'll notice, you'll see some green. Here, I got one of these pointy things. Let me see. Yeah, you see, it's the first time I've ever done that. Use this. All right, and the green, so those were homes and structures that were there, I want to say, probably using a 12. This might be an image from 12. So those structures were there in 8 when they did this, the flyover in 2008. In 2012, these, but you see over here in the orange and red, those are new structures. There they are without. You can see one looks like completed and one's under construction. But another thing that's really cool about this, it's hard to see, it's small print there, but it gives you the square footage. You can measure it. We can, on these things, we can see we can see everything except up underneath the house and inside the house. But the top, the front, the sides, the backs, everything. And it's a very useful tool. We still need to go out and visually inspect property, but some properties are difficult to get to. Some people don't want you on your property, even though we have a legal right to go on everybody's property. If you don't want me on your property, we're not coming on your property. We don't have to, really. So, so it's a great technology. We use it, and I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but when I was mentioning about the CO in your house and everything, for new construction, there's only certain ways that we know about it that we can put it on the roll. The main is permitting and getting the COs. A lot of times, something might fall through the cracks. We'll get it when somebody comes in to do their homestead. But this is another way to be able to pick up property that we don't have on the roll. And it's a great, great tool. Doing a little addressing, just want to give you an example of how we had things. This was scanned into our system. This is a bunch of addresses and stuff like that. And I'm glad we had it, to be honest with you. But once again, we want to try and do so. So here is an example, and working with 911 because they do the addressing and stuff, and working with them in the parish, we've had a great working relationship on this. But you can see where we identify and have the addresses and the businesses. Working with the parish. Now, what the parish has is lots of records, which are a little different with the parcels, because you can have, didn't mean to do that. You can see where in the yellow there lines, that's a parcel, and there in the blue is the lots of record. For example, where I live, I'm on 6 lots of record, but only have one bill, one parcel, because I don't have that other developed and stuff like that. It's part of my yard. And it's what my house is on my yard, and that's what we do. But at the same time, you got your lots and records. So we're incorporating what we're doing with the parish data. And Steve, you can jump in and tell me, okay, all right. Now, what we were able to do last year in coordination and working with the parish to create a GIS district. And basically, you can see what the mission is here, to provide value to the citizens of St. Tammany Parish by working collaboratively to provide the framework to deliver correct, complete, and current GIS data to all GIS users within St. Tammany. In other words, what we want to do is coordinate our efforts. That was one thing when I came in, and I noticed is that municipalities were doing some stuff, the parish was doing some stuff, 911 was doing some stuff. If we worked together, we could get all this done and do it a lot more efficiently and hopefully save the taxpayers' dollars, but get this done. Get this done. This, I'm going to go ahead and put this in right now. I feel very, very strongly about this. This is a priority to me. We're working well with the parish, but I don't believe it's going to get done unless we make sure it gets done at the assessor's office. We are so far, we should be in the maintenance mode, not the creation mode, particularly compared to our neighboring parishes who already have this information available. And so I've put a lot of resources, doing this pretty much all in-house, once again, working with the parish, but this is important. This is really important. And I'm going to show you some more examples of just about how it makes us more efficient, it makes us more accurate, and it's more transparent for the public. What we've done, I'm working on, hopefully, I've been talking about having it in the 16, but hopefully maybe a little before, it's where you, the public, are going to be able to access some of this information I was showing. It's going to be a little limited, and what we've been doing, we've been sharing this. I've talked to the Home Builders Association, talked to other realtor groups to get input about information they would like to see, and so we're developing a website that will be tied into our website, and I'm going to show you what we got here. This is an example. This is Abita Springs. You can see all the green, how we got everything parceled out and everything. You'll go in. You can go just to the map. You can type in a name. You can type in an address. Let's say we're looking at Abita Springs here. we zoom in and we click on a home. And lo and behold, it's my chief deputy's home. Look at that. I tell you what, Troy Dugas, they're in Abita Springs. You can click on that. You see a little bit of information that comes up. Do another little click. See a picture of his house. This information, for the most part, is already available to the public. A lot of it's what we already have in our system. The other, as far as the imagery, is what you can get on Google Earth. So I'm very aware. I don't want to, just because I can do something and all this is public information doesn't necessarily mean I should. So that's why I've been getting input as far as how much information we want to put out there for the public. But once again, it's important to have this out there because it shows transparency. You can't hide when you can, anybody and everybody can go look at it. And so I'm excited about this and the opportunity that the public's going to have in order to it's just not the pub, but also the parent. What we got a call the other day, they're looking maybe establishing another drainage district. Well, they want the information and stuff. Well, like Troy told them, well, we don't have the GIS all up and running yet, okay? In the future, when we have this, give us the boundary, we can pull this up, boom, there it is. We know who the property owners are. A zoning issue, a zoning change, where you got to contact the property owners. One day in the near future, because like I said, this is important. It's going to take a few years. Like I said, we already got 40,000 parcels. We got a lot of municipalities. We got a lot of the subdivisions on there. It's the more rural areas that's going to take more time. But I just think this is so important to the public, and it's important to us at the assessor's office. And I think I'm about to finish up. This is our mission statement. This is a banner that hangs up in both our office in Covington and Slidell. To serve the citizens of St. Tammany Parish with fairness, efficiency, and responsiveness. And that's important. And we got that banner in there, just not what you see when you walk in, but also so the staff at the assessor's office, they say they know what their job is. It is to serve you. And we try to do the best we can. And I tell everybody, if there is a problem, let me know. That's the only way I'll know is if you let me know if there's a problem. But once again, we're here to work it. That's our website. You can go on, you can check your assessment. And once again, I think we got a great website. And once again, in the near future, you're going to be able to go on to our digital map, because that's what we're trying to do on that end, is create a digital ownership map. Anybody, is there anything I need to bring up? So, is there any questions? Yes, sir.
Two of them, really. The GIS map, is it going to be, I'm going to ask before, it's going to be similar to the Orleans area?
Yes.
Click and get the ownership.
Yes.
Would it be possible, you're talking about zoning, would it be possible to kind of integrate how they have the zoning lookup map where you click on it and it also tells you the ownership plus the zoning?
That's a great point, and yeah, and I believe that's doable. I believe that's doable.
Multiple layers on
You can do multiple. Another layer, what's helpful with the GIS is, say, wetland issues, where we can overlay the floodplains and stuff on this. So no, that's what's so cool. It's just the multi-purposes that you can use for it. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Another thing I want to touch on. For commercial properties that are income-producing investments, sometimes, I'm a commercial real estate practitioner, when I try to sell something and they say, well, it's not going to make sense because the taxes are going to whipsaw. Is there a way to have the taxes based on the income it produces rather than the purchase price?
Yes. I mean, we do, there's three methods of and one of them is the income approach. And we do that with certain businesses, but apartments would be a good example, hotel would be a good example. If you own a strip mall, that would be good examples of where we have and do use the income approach to it. But I'm assuming, and I'm careful to assume, in that purchase price, that's what they did too. Yeah.
One of the things that applying the analysis, I figure out what the ratio is to the improvement to the land, apply that to a potential purchase price, get the millage and back into what the taxes would like to be, more often than not, they could solve. And sometimes to get the number they want, you can't make it work because then they're not making a cash on cash return.
Right.
The cap rate that they're looking at.
Yeah.
Is there a method that you all have a standard, whatever, so I can apply that?
Get with that, and I had one of the changes I made when I came in his office was where before we had like 5 districts and they did everything commercial and residential. I got a commercial appraiser now, and that's what we do. And Troy and Matt are very involved in both of those. So if you don't mind, if we could speak right after that, because we do. I don't know if we got a standard cap rate. It usually varies with whatever industry or business sometimes that we're looking at. But both of them are former bankers. So I really, depend on them when we're looking at that, what the cap rate, what the, what's it called when you spread it out over time and stuff, like a lot of the large developments and stuff. And that's how we will look at it. And we will work with you on that. Any other questions? Yeah, Lacey. Yes, ma'am.
How many other states have homestead exemptions?
That's a good question. I don't know. I know Florida does. Because it's funny you bring that up. One of the other ways about the homesteads is that we'll get phone calls from other states. Does such and such have a homestead? We'll do that too. But Troy, do you know right off bat how many?
Not as many as you think.
Yeah, it really isn't that many because some. No, we're not the only one.
Texas, Florida, we get the call from those states.
Yeah.
But California doesn't have it. They find out about it, and they were in our office yesterday. We don't have this in California.
And that's amazing. I always say, if you're from here, it's like a birthright. It's like in your blood, about the homestead, But it's amazing so many people that they don't have it. And so normally I don't go back too far on those. To me, that's on you to get the home. But for those who are out and they don't know anything, we'll go back 3 years and give them the homestead and stuff on that. But it is amazing. There's not many. Yeah.
The other question is, you said we're the 4th or 5th highest tax.
Fourth.
Who are the other 3?
I think Orleans. No, I thought they went up and
Rural parishes in North Louisiana. Where most people, I can't remember off the top of my head, but most of those parishes all have majority of the taxes are paid by businesses and most people are homestead exemption. They have high taxes because most of the taxes come from public service, from pipelines and things like that, so they have higher rates. But the public generally is not paying those.
Yeah, so once again, that's what makes St. Tammany a little unique in regards to, once again, that the majority of our taxes are paid by residential property owners and that the vast majority pay some taxes. It makes us different. I'm very envious of those rural assessors. Very envious of them. Any other question? Yeah, Bill? Yeah,
So can you go on the site during the review period into your website and check your tax bill there?
Yes. Yes.
Call the assistant.
Yes. Please go to the website. And that slide I showed you right after the camera, that's what you'll see. And it'll provide that information to you. And once again, depending on where, it'll let you know. Because we'll get, because it reminds me another point, the senior freeze. A lot of people think with the senior freeze that freezes your taxes. It doesn't. It freezes the value of your property. So if your taxes go up, we got a ton of phone calls last year when the fire district in Slidell went up from seniors saying, you can't raise my taxes. Well, we didn't raise your taxes and we didn't raise your value. The taxes went up because the fire district over there went up. Mike, I saw
11 states.
11 states. I guess we Googled it. So 11 states have homestead. Yes, Mike?
Yeah, Louis, when you were talking about the ad valorem tax and talking about the possible, revocation of it at the state level, what kind of impact would that have on our, I guess, millage base if we had to offset that increase or reduction with the increase in millage?
Well, it's about a 5%. It looked like across the board, it was going to affect everybody about 5% of their revenue.
We roughly have 150 mills. We're talking about 5% of that 100.
Exactly. And always remember too, it's just not the operational mills, but your bonds, the mills dedicated to your bonds. Those, you have to collect whatever you need to collect in order to pay those bonds. They don't go to the voters. You don't have to ask permission. That's something you do. I just know as mayor, when we had bonds, that was a high priority for us. And it goes back to what I was telling before about getting the money on time, because a lot of these bond payments, a lot of them start in March, where you have to start making them. And if the bills weren't going out till January or February and you didn't have money to pay your bonds. Or what we do, we'd have to go in our reserves to pay them. Now we get that back and stuff, but no, it's important. Now, it was only about a 5% here in St. Tammany. I want to say Plaquemines Parish, it was somewhere around 50-60% because of the industry and stuff. So some parishes would have really affected us 5%, but you would have seen the other mills go up in order to make up that difference. Is there any other questions? Thank you once again for having me. I really appreciate it. Anything that we can do, we're available. Y'all have a great day. Thank you. Thank you, ladies.